Greetings and welcome. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbalist SR of ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. And today I'm going to speak to you about how ancient astrological symbolism and correspondences are intrinsically embedded into the very fabric of society as a whole. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbalist SR, ancient astrologer of ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. All right. So today I'm going to go in some depth upon the aesthetic appearance of London's roads and how ancient astrology has been intrinsically embedded into the very design and nature of the roads themselves. All right. So let's look at the roads. Let's look. Look at this road. As we can see here, this is a road. And as we can see here, the first thing is what I see here is you have these white lines here, these dividing lines, all right? Now, this white color straight away points out to me that this is correspondent and representative of the moon. Why is it representative of the moon, you may ask? Well, I see the color white on a black background, and the ancient axiom is as above, so below, as below, so above. And when you look in the sky during a full moon, you see a white shining moon upon a tapestry of a black background of a black sky. And when you look down on the roads, you see the same thing, which is reflected below, as above, so below. You see white lines upon a black background. So this to me corresponds with the moon, all right? Blatantly corresponds to the moon from an ancient astrological perspective, all right? And it is there to draw your eyes towards it, yeah? If you see the color black and then you see white painted on top of it, straight away your eyes are drawn towards it. It catches your attention, then you see what's actually written there. It illuminates, yeah? It illuminates your surroundings and your awareness and actually see what's actually there. And you put an emotional investment into what you are actually reading, which corresponds with the moon, the emotion. All right. Now, not only this, when we look at this, it's like the moon also corresponds with the fact that you have two lanes here. All right. And it splits, these lines splits the roads into two or more lanes. And the person driving the vehicle can choose to go in the left lane or the right lane, yeah? Or if there's more lanes, they can choose to go in other lanes. But they'll choose to go in the left lane or the right lane, all right? Which corresponds with a sideways motion, all right? Moving left or moving to the right, yeah? Also, if you are in your car, yeah, you are sitting down in your car, especially if you're a passenger, you'll be sitting down in your car and looking out the window, usually to the left or to the right, and you'll be looking at a glass window. Now, based upon ancient astrological symbolism, I know that if I was looking at a lost object horary and trying to locate a lost object, I know that the color white or the color silver corresponds with the moon. And if the moon is implicated to indicate the whereabouts or the nature of the lost object itself or the nature of the place that the lost object could be found, I would come to the conclusion that this lost object is either white or silver in color, or that it could be found next to something that is white or silver in color. Yeah, that's some laundry or some bed sheets that are white in color. All right. Now, glass also corresponds to the moon. Any glass cutlery or glass dishes will also correspond to the moon. Now, the moon corresponds to emotion, and when you are sitting in your car and looking out the window, if you're in the passenger seat and you're looking out the window, you're looking out the glass window, which corresponds to the moon, and you're having memories about or having like thoughts about the place or your destination that you want to get to and what you're actually going to do when you get there. Or you may be thinking of memories of things that have happened to you in the past and reminiscing about certain things on an emotional level while you're sitting down in the car looking out the glass window, which corresponds to the moon, in the car on a road which the driver has chosen to go to the left or to the right lane, all right, which corresponds with the sideways motion of the crab. Yeah, the crab, which is represented by Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Yeah, so everything on this road, including the car and you sitting down in the car and the aesthetic appearance of the road corresponds with the moon. Yeah. Also, Cancer is co-signified by the fourth house of the zodiac. The fourth house of the zodiac represents and is correspondent astrologically to a domestic environment where you sit down and spend time in relaxation with family. And when you're in a car, you are sitting down. And usually, when you're sitting in the car, it's easier to move to the left or to the right rather than forward and back, which corresponds to the movement of the crab, which corresponds to Cancer, which corresponds to the moon. All right. Now, back to the roads. As we can see, as above, so below. A white color on a black background, which looks almost the same as the moon shining in the dark night sky on a black background. All right. Also, when you go to a zebra crossing, the instructions are to stop and look left or look right, which corresponds to the movement of a crab. And if you don't look left or right and follow the, what's it called, the green cross code, and you walk out without looking, it's possible that you could be hit by a car which is moving towards you from either the left or the right, which corresponds to the movement of the crab. And then what will happen? You or your family or those close to you will be distraught as a result of you either dying or being severely injured, yeah, on the roads. Okay? And the emotion that they will feel corresponds with the moon. The moon is the fastest moving planet. And yes, the moon is a planet in astrology. She is the fastest moving planet in the whole of the zodiac. She doth move very swiftly within the heavens. And as she traverses each sign, she moves at a very high speed, which corresponds with the movement of the car that you may be hit by if you do not follow the green cross code and look left or right before walking out onto it. Also, these white lines also correspond to the sun. All right. The sun. Why? Because the color white, yeah, astrologically speaking, corresponds to and is a co-significator of the first house of the zodiac or the ascendant. All right. Now let's find a astrological chart. As you can see here, this line here is the horizon, and this AC that you see over here represents the ascendant. All right. And this first house of the zodiac is synonymous with the color white. Why is that? Because when the sun rises, as he rises in the east, yeah, on the horizon, he illuminates everything on the planet as he rises. And sunlight is the color white, which is why the first house of the zodiac corresponds with the color white. If I was using this chart to find a lost object and the first house implicated where the lost object could be found, then I would come to the conclusion that the color white or the shade of white is somehow linked to where the lost object might be. All right. And this line here is the dividing line. Yeah, this is the horizon line. Everything below this line is below the earth. Everything above this line is above the earth. Okay. So this can represent both sides of the roads, and this line can represent the white line on the roads themselves, which is why this line not only represents the moon, but also represents the sun's light. All right. And the moon reflects the sun's light. Okay. And then you got both sides of the road, which also corresponds with both hemispheres of the brain. All right. Now, in ancient astrology, yeah, the moon governs the left eye in men. All right. And the sun governs the right eye in men, in males. Okay. Now, supposedly, the left brain controls the right eye, and the right brain controls the left eye. All right. And the right brain is the symbolic side of the brain, the side of the brain that deals with emotion, intuition, and intangible things, things that are not of the physical plane or the physical world. All right. Acting upon emotion. Yeah. And the left brain is to do with logic, doing things in chronological order and taking your time to do things in a practical sense. So, in men, in ancient astrology, yeah, the moon governs the left eye in men, all right? And because the left eye is controlled by the right brain, which is symbolic, it makes complete sense because the moon is synonymous with feminine energy and emotion, okay? And symbolism and creativity, and mostly things that are intangible, things that you can feel, the emotional feeling of wanting to do something, the emotional yearning, all right? Which is why it governs the left eye, as far as I'm concerned, in men, and the left eye is controlled by the right brain, which is symbolic. And on the other hand, you've got the right eye of men, which is governed by the sun. Right? The right eye of men is governed by the sun. Now, in sacred geometry, a straight line is representative of masculine energy, whereas a curve is representative of feminine energy, the moon, a curve. See these curves here? Now, the sun governing the right eye of men makes complete sense because when the sun rises, he illuminates the physical world. The only reason you can see the physical world is because the sun's light is shining and is illuminating everything around you, and the light is bouncing off of all the objects and going into your eyes, and you're able to see it. All right. And men, by nature, are very practical. We do things based upon logic. Like if you went to a building site, it's very likely that the majority, like 99.99999% of the workers will be men and not women because men like to do things practically, all right? So you have the sun, which governs the right eye in men, and the right eye is controlled by the left brain, and left brain is associated with logic, doing things in chronological order and being completely practical, all right? So it makes complete sense why in men, in ancient astrology, the moon governs the left eye in men, and the sun governs the right eye in men. And in women, it's switched around, all right? The left eye in women is governed by the sun, all right? And the right eye in women, in females, is governed by the moon. Now, women are more right brain driven. They do things based upon emotion more than logic. Some may argue that, but women do things based upon emotion more than logic. And they do things practically in the world. They carry out practical activities in the world and behaviorisms as a result of what they are driven to do, as a result of an emotional push or in an emotional basis. So it makes complete sense that the left eye in women will be governed by the sun because the left eye is controlled by the right brain, and the right brain is symbolic and emotional. So when they're in their symbolic emotional state, they make things manifest in the physical world practically through the masculine energy of the sun. All right. So back to what I was saying about London's roads, because I'm digressing. So these lines here represent the moon and the sun, and both hemispheres of the brain, the movement of the crab, as well as the horizon line. Yeah, you can have the sun rising on the left side of the road, which is the person wanting to cross the road, and then the sun rises and culminates at the top here, and then it sets on the other side of the road, and that represents the person crossing the road. All right, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah, and this is the glyph of the sun, astrologically speaking. As we can see, it looks like an eye, doesn't it? Now, the sun also happens to rule the sign of Leo. Now, the sun is the brightest star. It is the brightest planet in the whole of the zodiac. When he rises, he takes over the whole sky. If you were sitting there looking at the beautiful night sky, as soon as the sun rises, you don't see any stars anymore. He shines more than everybody else. He wants all of the attention, yeah? And he rules the sign of Leo, all right? Now, someone with a lot of Leo energy in their nativity or in their radix or in their natal chart, should I say, otherwise known as their nativity or radix in traditionally speaking, someone who has a lot of Leo in their chart would like to be the center of attention, have everybody circling around him, all right? As you can see here, this is the sun. You have a dot in the middle, and then you have a circle around him. This is typical of Leo energy. The person standing in the middle with all of these people around him, yeah? So, let's look at this car. This car right here. I can safely assume that the person who drives this car has a lot of Leo energy. They are the center of attention. And the car happens to be gold. And everybody's watching them and circling around them. I think these people are taking pictures. I think she is, I think. Circling around this car. Because they want to be the center of attention and have the best car on the roads. Because they're ruled by the sun. And symbolic of the sun, they're shining more than any other star in the sky. As soon as you see this car drive past, you cast your eyes away from all the other mundane cars and you start looking at this car, don't you? Yeah? On the roads. So, back to what I was saying about London's roads, yeah? Now, looking at this road here, look at the color of the road. The color of the road is black, all right? The color of the road is black. And you see straight lines here. A straight line corresponds in sacred geometric terms and teachings. A straight line corresponds with masculine energy. And you have the roads, which are like usually straight lines. Sometimes they wind and turn corners in curves, but most of the time they are laid down architecturally in straight lines, all right? And you got the black roads representing, I think you know where I'm going with this, representing the planet Saturn, yeah? The road, boundaries and rules and legislation and law, Road Traffic Act, all right? You must not drive on the wrong side of the road in the wrong direction, yeah? Otherwise, you can cause the death of yourself or somebody else. Death corresponding with Saturn again, all right? So these black roads correspond with the planet Saturn, all right? Order, yeah? The law and order of the road and adhering to the rules and boundaries and legislation of the road itself, all right? Now, what happens when you're actually on the road? If you want to park somewhere, usually, if you want to park your car for a certain amount of time, what would you actually have to do? You would need to go to the parking meter and put your money in so that you can leave your car in a certain place for a certain amount of time. If you don't do this, you could get fined and have to pay a certain amount of money as a result of the time that you spent on the black road corresponding to Saturn. Now, as you can see here, this is a parking meter, and a parking meter is they are usually black in color with straight lines and 90-degree angles corresponding to masculine energy and being black corresponding to Saturn, all right? And you are putting your money in so you can have a certain amount of time being parked somewhere, all right? Now, as this mechanism here represents Saturn and you're putting your money in, as I said in the previous video, all of the money corresponds to planets, and all of the planets, mythologically speaking, are the children of Saturn, which is why this black wallet representing Saturn eats his children, yeah? Eats his children. The black wallet eats the money, which are the planets, which are his children, all right? Now, you open this wallet and you put your money into the parking meter so you can have a certain amount of time, yeah? And who is Saturn? He's Father Time, okay? Saturn is Father Time, as you can see here. Now, not only does this correspond to Saturn, I mean, this, look at these coins. This logo of the coins looks like planets as well, blatantly. Now, as you can see here, there is a blue square. This blue color corresponds to the moon and corresponds to the fourth house of the zodiac, which corresponds to Cancer, which is corresponding to the fact that if you want to spend time with your family, i.e., you stop somewhere and you want to get out of your car and spend time shopping with your family, having fun, then you would have to adhere to the rules of Saturn in order to be able to spend quality time with your family. So this blue square, the blue color corresponds to Cancer and a domestic environment that you can actually create while you're with your family when you are shopping whilst your car is parked for a certain amount of time that you've booked from Father Time. Okay? Now, the next thing, because we know that this is blatantly Saturn. I mean, look at these straight lines. It's black, it's Saturn, yeah? Blatantly. The next thing that we look at is if you park somewhere, we all know who this guy is, don't we? If you park somewhere where you're not supposed to park, then this guy comes, a traffic warden, and he fines you, gives you a ticket, all right? Now look how he's dressed. He is dressed in black. He is there to enforce the rules and the legislation of the roads, which corresponds with Saturn. Now, by no coincidence whatsoever, is he wearing a black uniform to enforce the rules of the black road, all right? And he also happens to be black. Now, if you look at this, look at him. Look at the shape of his hat. I mean, this hat here, this part of the hat looks like the rings of Saturn. Look, there's Saturn right here. And it corresponds to the rings of Saturn. And he's wearing black, which corresponds to Saturn. He gives you a ticket, which is the depth of the amount of money you have. Any money that you actually have needs, a proportion of it needs to go towards him or the organization he works for as a result of him telling you that you must pay a certain amount of money for not adhering to the rules which he's enforcing. Yeah? Okay? So he represents Saturn. He represents Father Time, which is why he's wearing black and which is why his hat is shaped this way. All right? Even some police officers have hats that are shaped this way because they wear black and they correspond to Father Time. I mean, when people ask why do the police kill people, I'm like, come on, man. The color black represents Father Time, and Saturn is synonymous with the color black, and also represents death and the end of life. So it makes sense that if the police officers are wearing black and they represent Saturn, that they would kill people. Astrologically speaking, it makes complete sense to me. I don't know why you would expect any other behavior. But anyway, I'm digressing, all right? So, now what else happens when you're on the roads? You'll be driving on the roads as normal. And then sometimes you're trying to get to your destination. And then what happens? A traffic jam happens. And you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. You have to phone up the people at your destination and say, I'm not going to make it, you know. I think I'm going to be late. This traffic out here is chock-a-block, man. I am not going to make it. These roads are eating my time. Well, of course, the roads are eating your time. Because the road is black and corresponds to Saturn, who is Father Time, who eats his children. All right? Now, let's move on to the traffic light. Now, let's look at this traffic light. This traffic light over here, as you can see, you have, obviously, the majority of this design is made out of the shade of black, which corresponds to Father Time, again, as I always drive home. Now, you have three colors here. You have green, you have orangish, yellowish, amber, as it's known, colloquially, and you have red, all right? Now, the green color signals to those driving any vehicles on the road that they can continue to traverse the ground. All right? Now, this green color corresponds to lush green ground. It corresponds to the ground, all right? Corresponds to the earth. In electronics, the earth wire is the green wire. It corresponds to the earth. Now, as we all know, the roads of today are not actually green, but in ancient times, the roads looked something like this. You'll have a lot of greenery around it. You may have some green in the middle of the road, but mostly you'll have green all around you, and you will traverse this road like usually on a horse and carriage in ancient times, all right? So this green color corresponds and symbolizes and signals to the car, rather, that the person driving it can continue to drive forward and traverse the lush green ground which was beneath the wheels of the car, or shall I say the wheels of the carriage in ancient times. Now, the green also corresponds with Venus, because Venus corresponds with green grass. Now, if you are driving a car and you are trying to get to your destination, i.e., you want to reach a party or reach some type of social gathering to have some type of time of elation and merrymaking, drinking or partying or listening to music or being creative in some way, all of that corresponds with the planet Venus merrymaking, yeah? Venus, merrymaking, partying, having fun, socializing, all right? So you will be thinking of where you want to get to your destination. So when the light turns green, then it signals to the driver who's trying to get to this place of merrymaking that the driver can continue to traverse the road which was surrounded by grass in ancient times, which corresponds with Venus. All right. Now, Venus corresponds with, well, Venus rules Taurus, and Taurus also corresponds with this grass, which corresponds with this green light. Because in ancient times, the cow, which Taurus represents, the cow would till or plow the lush, fertile land. All right. So this lush fertile land and the cow, or Apis, the heavenly bull, symbolically speaking, plows this lush fertile ground, which is synonymous with Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, which corresponds with the color green and the lush green ground of the ancient roads, which is why you have the lower traffic light, which is green, which signals to the car that they can continue to traverse the road. All right. Now, whoever designed these traffic lights, yeah, I believe, looking through the eyes of an ancient astrologer, that they knew exactly what they were doing, all right, in terms of making ancient astrological symbolism and correspondences be intrinsically embedded within the actual design of the traffic light itself, all right? So although the roads of today, as a result of industrialization, the roads of today are concreted over and are black in color, they have chosen, the designers have chosen to keep this lower color, well, this lower traffic light, the color green, because symbolically speaking, ancient astrology and the symbolism that goes along with it is intrinsically embedded into the very psyche of human behavior. So they know by keeping this color green, it will speak to the symbolic side of the brain and make human beings within society adhere to the rules and say, right, this light is green, which means I must go. All right. So let's move on to the red light. Now, this red light over here means that the traffic, the people driving the car on the roads, if you're driving a vehicle on the roads, if you see a red light, you must stop. All right. You must stop. All right. And if you do not, if you carry on driving, you could end up running somebody over and shedding blood, which is why this color is red, which corresponds with Mars. Mars corresponds with drive, moving fast. And what happens? If you do not stop when the light flashes red when you're driving your car, you may end up ramming someone over. All right. And Mars rules Aries, which corresponds to the ram, running in straight lines and running into things. All right. So somebody who is walking out into the road while the light is actually red, whilst a person driving a car decides not to stop, that person who's on the road could end up being rammed over by a red car, which corresponds with Mars, which corresponds with the red light. All right. So, next thing now, we are looking at this middle light here, which is amber, yellowish, orangish. Now, if you've been following this video series of the astrology hidden within, you would know that anytime you see a yellowish orangish color, that corresponds with the air signs of the zodiac, corresponds with the air signs of the zodiac. Now, when the light flashes amber, it means the person driving the car, it doesn't mean they should stop and it doesn't mean they should go forward. It means that they should be somewhere in between and they need to wait to see where the light is actually going to land on, whether it's going to be green or red, to decide what they're going to do. So this amber signals to the driver that they must pay attention and allow the synapses to fire within their brain so they can come to a conclusion as to what they're going to do next. Now, the orangish, yellowish, amber color corresponds with Mercury, the synapses firing, yeah, within the brain. Mercury rules electricity and thought, and also rules Gemini and rules the twins, yeah. The twins, which one should I do? Which decision should I actually make? Should I stop or should I go forward? The twins, the two hemispheres of the brain, also corresponds with Gemini, which corresponds with Mercury also. All right. And then because this traffic light is found in between. Where is this traffic light? This traffic light, the amber color, is found in between the red and the green light and is right in the middle. It corresponds with the scales. It's yellowish, orangish, amber, and it corresponds with the scales, which corresponds with Libra, because it's in between. The person hasn't made a definitive decision yet. So therefore, it corresponds with Libra, the scales. And they're kind of floating in the air, not sure if they need to stop or move forward. All right. Now, since we're talking about the air signs of the zodiac, let's move on to London's roads and these yellow lines. The reason why these lines are yellow, yeah, because I believe that whoever designed this, those who designed this, knew exactly what they were doing, yeah, in terms of the ancient astrological correspondences that are embedded within it. Because this yellow color signifies that you must not stop if you're in a vehicle. You must not stop on top of this unless you have the authority to do so. All right. So you must adhere to the limitations and boundaries and rules of the black road, which is synonymous of Saturn. And you must not stop on top of these yellow lines. You must stay hovering. You must stay airborne. You must not land on this part of the road, which is why this yellow color is actually used. All right. I mean, for example, look at this box junction. You're not allowed to stop for long periods and under certain rules. If you are in a car or in a vehicle, you must not stop in this box junction, otherwise you will block up the road. Yeah, so this is a signal to stay airborne and not to land. It corresponds with the air signs of the zodiac. Yeah, and then when you stop on the box junction, what happens? You're there and you're saying, oh my gosh, I need to weigh up the odds of whether or not I should be here. I need to quickly always weigh up the odds of whether or not you should stay there, whether or not you should go on the symbolic side of your brain or the practical side of your brain and make a definitive decision as to what you should do logically or emotionally. All right, which corresponds with Libra, yeah, the scales again, and the synapses firing within your brain, which corresponds with Mercury. All right, and the twins, which way should I go? All right. As you can see here, you got this red part, which is the bus lane, which corresponds with the bus. And if you see in a previous video where I talked about the London's red buses corresponding with Mars and the Ram and Aries, you would see why it makes complete sense why the bus lane is red. It's a straight line and the bus is red and it moves in a straight line, corresponds with Mars. All right. And as you can see, you have red here and you have black over here. The red corresponds with Mars, which is the lesser malefic, and the black corresponds with Saturn, which is the greater malefic. And when you have two malefic planets together in an astrological chart, it usually creates negative energy. Saturn rules death, which is why people can easily die on the road and shed red blood. All right. Now, back to the yellow lines. These two yellow lines here, again, there's two of them. It represents the scales and it also represents the twins and Mercury. And you have to think whether or not you are going to land or stop on those lines and weigh the odds. And if you stop on there, you will get fined as a result of Saturn, who says, why are you landing on these Mercurian lines? You are supposed to say airborne because these lines represent the air signs of the zodiac and you should not be landing on there. So therefore, I am going to enlist some type of penalty due to the fact that you have not adhered to the rules and boundaries and legislation that I have placed and enforced upon you. And then what happens? What happens as a result of that? The traffic warden comes, yeah, and he gives you a ticket dressed in black. He's the representative and the embodiment of Saturn again. All right. Even a car clamp is yellow. Why? It's a warning to not park in a place that you're not supposed to park. And because the yellow corresponds with the electrical signals that fire in the brain and Mercury, it causes this incident of getting a car clamp to be embedded within your memory, and so that you have a bad memory of having your car clamped, and every time you think of having your car clamped, you think of the color yellow, and then you remember the double yellow line and how a certain guy came dressed in black to give you a yellow ticket. Which corresponds to the air sign of the zodiac. This yellow ticket, remember it. It's embedded within your memory, embedded within your brain. All right. As a result of it, I mean, look at this car clamps. This guy, whoever was driving this car, is not happy. This car is blue, so it's very likely that this person is very family orientated and likes to go and visit family, take family out, and that kind of thing. But they got stopped by Father Time, who decided to use the element of air, yellow, and clamp the car. All right, this person is not happy. So there you have it. You've got London's roads, and you got the ancient astrological symbolism and correspondences that are intrinsically embedded into the very aesthetic design of London's roads. This is the ThaBadbrey Herbal SSR of the ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. The ThaBadbrey Herbal SSR, ancient astrologer of the ThaBadbreyHerbal.co.uk. I will be back. Stay tuned. Dendera.